Those days are a little different to today only because of the cost of construction has gone up, and that's cutting into a lot of people's budgets. And it really comes down to bang for buck renovation is if you are going to do what I call a lipstick on a pig reno. That's like a cosmetic paint and bits and pieces, or if you're going to do a full gut job, adding a wall and extension, and that completely changes the game. Number one question I get asked a lot of time is about, hey, if I did this reno, is it going to add value to my home or am I overcapitalizing?
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest, honestly, Michael, like the biggest reasons why I went out on my own.
Welcome to Property Banter by Pinnacle Buyers Agents. This is a fantastic episode. I'm so excited for this one. We have Belinda Botzolis from Ad Valuer on the show today to discuss value boosting renovations on a budget. So if you're a property investor and you want to know how to get the most amount of value out of your investment property with the most minimal amount of spend, this is the episode for you. Please like, subscribe, share with a friend and enjoy. Welcome, Belinda.
Thank you.
Hey, this is awesome.
Yes.
Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Most welcome. Let's get into bang for buck renovations.
Okay.
Because a lot of people out there, a lot of investors are not spending their money the way they should on their renovations. And then sometimes they're expecting a lot more than they get when the valuation comes in.
Oh, yes.
Are you seeing this?
Yes. So I guess, Michael, I've been valuing for 19 years.
Yeah.
So I finished school, I went to uni and I went straight into valuation. So I've seen a lot. And you got to remember, as a valuer, when I used to do bank work, you would get sent out to maybe anywhere from 5 to 7 homes a day, 5 days a week, 48, 49 weeks a year. Right?
Yeah.
You don't take sick days, you don't take holidays when you're a valuer because you're getting the work coming. It's just coming from the banks. So whether it comes from St. George or Combank or who knows or who cares, you go in and they're for all different reasons. So I see the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And so then when it's good, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And you always ask questions.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh yeah, how much did this cost? And then people would tell you, oh, we did all this and they hustle and they'll say, oh, we did this for 10 grand. And then in my head, I'm like, wow, they've just added 50, 60 grand in renovation.
Yeah.
Now, those days are a little different to today only because of the cost of construction has gone up, and that's cutting into a lot of people's budgets.
Yep.
And it really comes down to bang for buck renovation is if you are going to do what I call a lipstick on a pig reno. That's like a cosmetic paint and bits and pieces, or if you're going to do a full gut job, adding a wall and extension, and that completely changes the game.
Yeah.
So when people see shows like The Block or, those reno shows, they think, oh, all we got to do is like add an extension and put a deck. And you're like, I understand that, but you can't do that for less than 250 grand. You could have got away with maybe 80, 90 in the old days. Yeah. Now it's 250 and you're probably only going to add 270.
Yeah. So The Block is great to watch.
Yeah.
The Block is the furthest from the truth when it comes to doing smart renovations and really profiting from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't all have Adrian Portelli to buy our properties, right? And he's not valuing them and he's not buying them, right?
Yeah, so, even if you're friends with him and he likes you, like, I love you, Adrian, come and buy my properties, yay. Yeah. Because he pays more for the ones he likes. Yes. But in the real world, they don't meet you. They don't see you and your battles and your life and stuff. They just see your home. So, so today, I think what you do know, and you've somebody that's renovated in the past, the amount of people I speak to and they're like, oh, we've renovated before and we built before and we can do it again. And I think you could do it again if the variable hadn't changed, which is the cost of construction. Yeah. Because yes, values have gone up, but the difference in a lot of suburbs between a crappy house and a really, really, really nice house means a pretty big reno. And then the cost to get that reno done absorbs all your profit.
Yep.
So this is where we spoke about it just before, to do really well, you really got to hustle, and you can't put it down to luck anymore.
Yeah.
You got to know your stuff.
Yeah, at the box. It's one of those things where I see the really, really savvy investors that do scale portfolios and they do renovations really, really well. But then you'll see people that might have one investment property or maybe two that haven't quite learned how to be really savvy, and they tend to put a lot of effort, a lot of heart into the renovation.
Yeah.
They genuinely want to do a good job, but they overcapitalize.
Yes.
The expensive tap and, on a lower socioeconomic property, or God knows, I don't have to tell you, all of the examples, right?
Yeah.
And they're just spending way too much. And yes, they've put a lot into it. And yes, that's great. And it does look nice in the end, but it does not value up.
No.
It doesn't make that money.
No, I blame Instagram.
Instagram?
100%.
Really?
I blame, there's a couple of, I call them like, people that do renovations. I don't want to name names. Oh my God, I don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
I love them. They do such beautiful work, but they're heavily sponsored and they get everything thrown at them, and then they do a renovation, and then you think your level of renovation has to look like that in order to get top dollars.
Yeah.
Or top sale price. But then I say to people, okay, so you've got a property and you're going to drop 50 grand renovating it. You're going to increase the value to 80 grand, and then you've got equity now.
Yeah.
But then you pull out, because you can only take out 80% in equity.
Yeah.
And so you put in 50 to only take back out 50.
Yes.
So sometimes I'm like, well, then don't bother, because it's not really part of your strategy at the moment, because that's going to lose you 3 months or 4 months in the market renovating, 4 months loss of rent.
Yeah. Just
to renovate to uptick your equity, when you could have just taken that 50 grand and purchased another property and not wasted any time. So a lot of the time when you do buy property that needs renovating, you have to be smart about your timing of the reno. Are you going to do it straight off the bat and then just set and forget and don't worry about it, and then increase the equity and then pull it out when you need it? Yeah. Instead of disrupting the cycle of that income coming in, and that, you've got a good tenant, and then it's different. For instance, my tenant just gave notice. The neighbor just coincidentally is like, our villa is getting sold. Can we rent yours out now? Yeah. I'm like, sweet, but before you get in, we just want to give it a coat of paint because it's been now 10 years and I just want to freshen it, because if they're in then for another 10 years, I don't want to disrupt them to maintain it. Yeah. And then it's 20 years. Yeah. 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 So there's always a strategy around when to renovate, but disrupting that cycle. So now imagine I kick them out or they left and I do a massive, massive reno, import 50 grand, and it's like, for what? When I'm not really needing that equity because I've already got equity. Yeah. So you've got to be really smart with your strategy when you're an investor on your renovation. Oh, definitely. And everything's got to be cost effective and it's got to work. Another one is... Can I ask you, what are you seeing with your investors? Are they wanting to renovate up front? Are they looking to renovate later? Like, what are you... I'm trying to talk a lot of them out of doing it. Yeah. And buy well. So when I scaled my portfolio, I didn't have, like, we subscribe to H-Tag, right, for our data. We didn't have data sets that were as good as they are now. They're absolutely amazing. So back in the day, I'd made sure I bought everything under market value. Like, we're just down the road here in Macquarie Fields. We're just on the other side of the shops. I bought a townhouse, right? Oh, yeah. It's literally 500 metres from us right now. Yeah. And I paid 220 grand for it. They go for 300. This is 2012. Yep. 2013, right? So I bought it 80K under market value, whatever that percentage is, right? That's great. Spend 6 grand. Paint, carpets, new kitchen sink, resealed the shower, new vanity, cheap mirror from Bunnings. That was it. Didn't want to gut that bathroom, didn't want to go through it, just made it tidy, made it fresh. The guy who owned it was a smoker. So fresh white walls, smell great, carpet smells great. Boom, there's your value, 300K. Extract that equity, go again. I ended up buying a second mine. Yes. Funnily enough, in this suburb, Mac Fields. And that was 250. It was worth 300. I did nothing except lease it back to him and left it. The equity was there. I extracted the equity, went again. Yeah. You don't always need to do the reno. No. But before that, like what we did. So I'm just trying to sort of let clients know that they, with data sets now, you don't always have to just jump in and renovate. If it's not your strategy and you want to sit at home
you work from home on Zoom or you live in Sydney, you can now, we're borderless investors. You can now just go buy, property in Cairns. There you go. It's up. You got your equity, go again. I kind of did it a certain way back in the day, and I love it because it's super fast. And if you nail it and do it well, but it required time. See, the way I did it was I had a business that was producing income and I had free time during the day.
Yes.
So now I didn't have to go to work like everyone else. That's the difference.
Yes.
So during the day, so I'm out talking to agents during the day. So funny thing was I was acting like a buyer's agent without being one yet.
Yes.
So that's how I did it. But for the average person doing the renos, it's super hard now with how busy life is.
Yeah, and a lot of people think they underestimate how much things are going to cost.
Oh, I've done that. I've done that recently.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Because they think, paint, I'll just do it myself. And they underestimate how long it's actually going to take.
Yeah.
And then they think, my father-in-law, my brother, my uncle, they're pretty handy.
Yeah.
They got lives too. And they can't always commit when you want them to commit. And we've all had that, I got a mate that's an electrician and that mate burns you. And then you're like, I'm never using him again, never mixing my friends. Like we've all been there. No, our electrician's our best man. We love you, Harry. We love you.
Shout out to Harry. Good job, brother.
I love you, Harry. But, there's
we'll call you for the next one, Harry.
The next one, I swear. But everyone's got that story of like, my mate, my friend, my da-da-da-da-da. And then for whatever reason, they shaft you or something happens and ends up costing you more than you bargained for or you thought. And that cuts in and you're like, if I knew now, like then what I know now, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So that can always, but if you have time, if you do have time and your weekends, you don't have kids, you don't have soccer and you don't have after school and you can go, till 2 a.m. and, knocking down walls, that's different.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are buying interstate, like you said, and you can't just go to Cairns for 3 weeks.
No.
And knock it out. And you don't know the locals. You don't know how,
how expensive they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And you don't have a mate that knows a mate that can get someone that's.
No, not if you're from.
I'm not going to say cash money. But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like we all had those stories, but it's different times now.
100%. Very, very different. So like when we're buying Cairns, we tend to buy properties that are newer that don't require that renovation. So you could buy it, property goes up in value, you exit, it's still fairly decent. I'm not going to buy an absolute problem of a property.
No.
Whereas if, being from Queensland, if it's Logan or whatever, you can get trades.
Yes.
It's super easy, but try getting them to go for a drive to Cairns. It's not very easy. Tell me, you mentioned knocking down bedroom walls.
Oh, knocking down walls.
Knocking down walls,
okay.
yeah. And the bedroom ad and so on. Are you seeing many savvy investors, in particular in Sydney, adding bedrooms? Obviously, that's one of there's a lot of equity to be had by obviously adding rooms, right?
As a valuer, number one question I get asked a lot of time is about, hey, if I did this reno, is it going to add value to my home or am I overcapitalizing? Yeah. And that was one of the biggest, honestly, Michael, like the biggest reasons why I went out on my own.
Yeah.
Because I was working for the big val companies, when you go to the banks?
Yep.
Those big ones?
Yeah, on the panel.
On the panel?
Yep.
I was a panel valuer. I was like a tax valuer. I was like, And then social media sort of started. Number one question, if I do this, am I going to add value? I don't know who to turn to because like the agent will tell me, but they might just want my listing or they'll, So I would find that adding a bedroom and adding a bathroom was their biggest, like, not sure if they should do it.
Yeah.
Turning a garage into a bedroom, should I do it, know?
Yeah.
And I would say it's hard because, yes, you get more rent, but sometimes you compromise the home because you're then, like if you've got a 4-bedroom home and it's got a smaller, you've then compromised the kitchen, living, dining. And then if you're more appealing to homeowners and owner-occupiers, they put more value because everyone needs more space.
Yeah.
And they want a nice kitchen, living, dining. And if you've compromised that for a 4-bedroom, they're like, this is too small for us as a family.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's got 4 bedrooms.
Yeah.
But you've thought it's added more value because of that bedroom.
Yeah.
yes, you got more rent. So as an investment or as a sales equity value add, just be careful that not always. I always find because I do floor plan reviews, let's look at dead space.
Yeah.
Let's look at a space that like formal dinings, like a lot of the old homes have kind of an L-shaped formal living goes into a formal dining off the kitchen. The kitchen has the meals.
Yeah.
So I say, well, who has formal dining tables anymore?
Yeah.
Having a table in the meals area, making that feel like that's a dining space could be more than sufficient.
Yeah.
And then that dining space, like you remember that all the old houses back in the day would have that formal living dining when you walk in, you're not allowed to sit in it.
That no one walks in.
Unless you got visitors.
Yeah, visitors.
And then they put the food out and they're not allowed to eat the food because the visitors are there.
Yeah.
Those rooms can easily be converted today in those type of homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a dead area. Yeah. But if you've got like an area that's really being used and it's part of the heart and soul of the home, don't F with it. Like don't touch it.
Yeah.
Find another dead space.
Yeah.
Like if you've got a really big laundry and you're like, I might convert that into like a study bedroom.
Yeah.
Because it's like dead space.
Yeah.
Look for the dead space, not for the prime real estate space in your home.
Yes.
And that's how you can add both value and rental, you know?
Yeah. And you touched on something that I've seen investors miss many times, and that is knowing who you're renovating for.
100%.
The people that are out, talk to the real estate agents, get a valuer on your side, know what the people in that area want.
Yes.
And renovating.
Yeah. So it's really, really important that you said that. I always say to my clients is when you talk about market value, I'm like, what does that mean to you? What does market value mean to you? And I get, it's just what the home's worth and what the market's paying for it. And I was like, okay, but when you say market, who's the market?
Yeah.
And I always do this, and I swear to God, one day I'm gonna tattoo like a little smiley face on my fingers because I'm a mum. I'm like, imagine each finger is a person, and each finger represents 10% of the market.
Yeah.
Okay. These are people on a Saturday that are going to wake up and they're going to go and inspect your property because the minute it's on the market for rent or for sale, it doesn't belong to you anymore.
Yeah.
Right? You're like a shop. You've put it on display and you're like, buy my product.
Yes.
But if that product doesn't appeal to the people that gave up their Saturday, who is the market, they're not going to pay that money.
Yes.
Now, if you don't know who those people are, then you're going to miss out on them and their money. Yeah. And you're only going to isolate it down to 40%, 30% of the market.
Yep.
So you have to know, and this is why it's so important that I go through demographics with my clients. I'm like, how old are they? Is this likely to be an investor home? Because investors don't really care about all the bells and whistles. Is it likely to be? I read an article yesterday, 3 suburbs they listed in Brisbane.
Yep.
That, and I can't remember what they are because I was like, that's interesting. And I flicked through it. 3 suburbs that had a median turnover of 19.7 years tenure of the home that people live in it.
Long hold periods.
Yes. Yep. So then because it's a great area, family, community.
Yeah.
So if I'm selling my home, chances are whoever's going to buy it is going to be a family, and what appeals to investor is not going to appeal to owner-occupier, vice versa. So there's no point going in and doing a really cheap and nasty reno hoping I get an uplift in value, when they'll see right through it and go, I'm planning on staying here long term.
Yes.
Wish they took a little bit, looks a bit rough. I might just wait for the next one because if I'm staying here for long term, I want to get it right.
Yep. That's renovating to your target market.
Yeah.
Super important. Very, very different to just renovating a regular investment property. And
there's time for cheap and nasty. Like it's got to be a good quality tenant. We can't go out there and just renovate shit crap. I can't.
But you could do decent.
You can.
So we did one in Woodridge, right? Yes. This is just 2023. And it was a 5K Bunnings flat pack kitchen. White polyurethane.
Perfect. Because
I don't have my Sydney kitchen guy up there. And paint was $1,300.
Yep.
And that was done with a whole bunch of mates and Heineken. And on the weekend, and $3K for the floating hybrid floors, supplied and fitted. This is a standard 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom. Bathroom was good enough, so the bathroom got skipped. But this is classic investor stock. But this was purchased at a point where it wasn't even investor stock. It was a nightmare. Investors didn't want it. An owner-occupier won't want it. but it's on an 800 square meter block.
Oh, yeah.
So it's awesome. And minimum lot size is 400.
Okay.
Right. So, but it's a nightmare. Tenants were hoarding. The place was under rented. It was just what an owner occupier wouldn't want. And when you're talking about the sector of of the people in the market that are looking for the product, you've eliminated owner occupiers.
Yep.
Investors aren't buying it either.
Yep.
But we've seen the potential, bought it under value, and then added that. And that was a super cheap one. But that is not a typical owner occupier style investment.
No.
So when you exit that, and especially if you chop that back block off, that goes to another investor.
Yeah.
So we didn't, but that's okay because it's Woodridge. It's going to, odds are there's a chance it goes back to another investor. So that's why the money wasn't spent. There was $150K immediate uplift.
Yeah.
For that spend,
Whenever I look for investment properties, I love it when they look unkept and messy in the photos.
Best thing.
I get excited. I'm like, oh, babe, to my husband, let's go. Look at this one.
Yeah.
So we found a unit for his, a friend of his. It's such a nice, this one's a nice story.
Yeah.
I'll just give me a minute. I'll tell you this story. So this young guy came from Poland, right? And, typical, imagine our parents.
Yeah.
But he's now his age.
Yeah.
Came, wanted a better life, sent some money back home, worked really, really hard.
Yep.
And he's like, my husband Nick is like, Nick, I want to buy a unit, the investment. And we found him. Oh my God, it was so crap. It was disgusting. It was like in Rockdale. It was on the Princess Highway, but it was on a corner block and it was the back of the block.
Yeah.
And the windows were drawn, the blinds were down. I went in, I looked up and I could see Botany Bay glimpses.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's bloody water views. Okay, glimpses, but real estate agent, water views.
Real estate agent would have said waterfront. He would have sold that.
Value would disregard it altogether. I was like, big deal. But I was like, this is a good selling point. Yeah. It stunk so bad. It was like a hoarder. It was like it had never been touched since it was done. And
so it was perfect.
He goes, I can do this. This is easy for me,
Yeah.
We're like, he's like, I'll put in this offer. I go, no. Like lowball it. Because we noticed on that Saturday, not a single person came through. And the agent said it passed in at auction and it's now like third week after auction. And we're like, this is. And he got it. He did an amazing job on it.
Yeah.
And he did really, really well. And that one also had a special levy on it that scared everybody off.
Yeah.
And it was just to redo the balconies.
Yeah.
Balconies are now done and they've painted the outside of the building. The building looks $1 million.
Yeah.
So the special levy was $6,000.
Yeah.
But the balcony and the paint on the building, I reckon, added easy $50,000. Just by removing the rubbish and spending $30,000 on it, he's added 150, 200 grand on this little unit that's
a great story.
And he pulled the equity out and went again. He's like, it was good. And I was so happy because he's he's just like a battler, like what Australia's all about. Like you come here. So when you hear a lot of people like, I can't get into the market, it's too hard. I say, you don't need to go straight into the house.
Yeah.
You don't need to, my parents had a house.
Yes.
I started off in a little unit and then I slowly built up. It's Sydney. It's hard. So don't I'd love a Porsche. My first car out of school, I didn't go and buy a Porsche. I will one day. It's there. But you start at the little Hyundai XL and go 100%. Into the – do you get what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. You work your way up.
Yes.
I use that same analogy. And the fact that you're a Porsche girl is fantastic.
I'm having a Porsche.
They are the ultimate supercar. They're the ultimate supercar.
Like a mum car four-wheel drive. I want a two-door.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. One of my – shout out to back in the day, but – my brother's got a car. It's got a 200 SX, and I'm like, Mike, please, can we go on the track? I want to learn how to drift.
Yeah, yeah.
So and I was like, when I get a Porsche, I will. It's going to be my everyday car. I don't care. The kids too. They're going to squeeze like this in the back, but it's Porsche. I'm a Porsche.
It's girl. So funny. Your brother's got a 200 SX.
Back in the day.
Well, definitely back in Sydney. I had a 206 as well, GDR, all that stuff.
Yes.
Of course I did.
Yes.
So still very Sydney, even though we're Queensland.
Because it was the car culture in that that 2000s.
Oh yeah, it was different.
It was different.
The kids will never know what it's like today.
Sorry.
Not sorry. It's definitely sorry. I've lost my train of thought. Where are we going with this? That was a great story. So did you negotiate with the agent?
We helped him.
You helped him, yeah.
Yeah. We helped him because we we just he showed us a couple of properties and we're like, look, okay, Rockdale, but it was right near the hospital, the train line. It was on the Princess Highway. It was on the Brighton Lassand side, had the bit of the water views. And we said, you've got a different buyer on this side. It's maybe a bit more owner-occupier. Yes, you're but in the back. And then we kind of educated him on that. Yeah. And then he went and bought one on his own. He just bought another one and he goes, what do you think of this? I was like, actually, it's pretty good. Like, I feel like he learned. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's got good people around him. That helps.
He does, yeah.
Going back to a very important point that a lot of people...
Burnouts? Going back to burnouts? No.
Burnouts. Do you know what? I found some old footage of me in the industrial area with the GDR, and it's on a 5 megapixel camera. Like you didn't have camera phones back then. There wasn't camera phones. You had to have a camera.
Did it exist?
What? So there's no evidence. But no, going back to the due diligence with regards to strata. So there's a lot of people out there that will just look at something and go, oh, it's got a 6K special levy.
Yeah.
They won't investigate it, or they don't know how to investigate it, or they don't have the team around them that can guide them on that. And that's where a lot of people are missing out. So in actual fact, the special levy was nothing to be overly concerned about. If anything, it benefited the building.
That's right.
And it benefited him in the end. But you had to know what to look for. And I think that's where...
Special levies, if it's fixing a water issue in the basement or something to do with water, I'd say careful because it's not going to add the value. And if anything, it freaks me out because it's like... Then sometimes when the insurance pays out or you raise the capital and you fix a water issue, sometimes those issues are deeper and they never really get fixed.
Yeah.
And something else pops up, because of that. And then there's something, and then, you can get concrete cancer years down the track because of the water penetration. Yeah. So anything to do with water, I'm like, maybe put that one aside. But anything to do with a capital uplift to the building, like a renovation capital uplift.
Yes.
I've done a couple of clients that have on the strata committee, and they're like, we have had a quote back from a builder to do this massive work to the complex. Yeah. But each person has to raise, say, 20 grand or 30 grand. Are they going to add that back in value to their unit? Yeah. Right? And that's when, because until they raise that capital, because it's going to take, they're going to slowly increase their levies, it's going to hurt the market. Yeah. But in the end, all they want to know is if it's going to be worth more. Yeah. So in that one, it was funny because they wanted to add balconies. The little units down the bottom without the view, it was in Rushcutters Bay. Yeah. Not so much. No. But the ones up the top, they were probably going to add $500,000. I'm not even joking, because it meant that they were going to have a balcony. Yeah. They could sit out and then they could get better view. But when you're down the bottom and you're not really looking into anything, it's not really going to add that much. Positive. So I said, maybe you can negotiate that the ones that benefit more. And anyway, I left that to them. But if it's going to increase your value at the end, don't be freaked out about it.
Don't fight it.
Yeah. Fight them and, hardball them down. Yeah. But just as long as in the end, your investment is going to benefit you. But 100%. Water, careful. Be careful with water. Watch out for water. Anything to do with water. Anything.
Belinda, we are running out of time. I do want to go through those 5 value adds in depth. We need you back, part 2, and I want you to give us all the information.
Okay, I'll go through each of them in more detail, and I'll see you back for part 2.
See you soon. Thank you all so much. That's part 1 with Belinda from Valuer. Please like, subscribe, share it with a friend, and watch part 2.